Good morning, welcome to the March 14th meeting of the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods. I'm Kathy Wells, the president. I'm so pleased to greet you today. We are live streaming this on our Facebook page at CLRN.AR. The recording link will be posted on that Facebook page afterwards. We have a lot of excellent friends today, lots going on in the community, but there's still a dedicated, concerned bunch of citizens who are going to discuss data centers. Our first hour will be technical. Do you please get the hand at the back of the room on the sign-in page. We also need you to sign in twice. The city gets a federal grant, so they need to know who's coming using their grant money. That's the QR code. They've got on Casey on this. There is also an old-fashioned write-your-name machine for the coalition. Got 2 of those going. So please do sign in, writing for the coalition, QR code for the city of Little Rock. We have coffee and water and snacks at the back of the room. Restrooms are down the hall, the way on the right. We will meet for an hour with Dr. Wang and then a successive hour with our state representative, Denise Ennett, who will deal with the policy issues. We're so glad you're here. Dr. Wang, give your presentation, please.
Okay. So thank you for the introduction. So I'm Shengyi Wang. I come from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. I'm assistant professor of electrical engineering. Today I'm so happy to make this presentation on AI and data centers. So first, let's have a good introduction about AI. The definition of the AI is a technology that enables the computer and the machines to have the human intelligence. And we expect the AI can do something as a human. For example, like understanding languages, like analyzing data, and even providing the help for suggestions. So now, let me give you some examples so you may experience AI use during your everyday life. So this is the smartphone's virtual assistant. So because I use the iPhone, so in the iPhone, so we have the Siri, this virtual assistant. So this virtual assistant can help me to solve some tasks when I use the phone. For example, so if I want to set the alarm, so I will just ask the Siri, hi Siri, could you please set an alarm to me? And then you don't need to do anything. You just interact with the virtual assistant, and the virtual assistant will help you to complete this task. So this is one application of the AI. So this one is the personalized recommendation on streaming services. So if you subscribe to the Netflix, and then so if you watch some programs and movies or episodes, and then the next times, so you may see the movies, episodes, or the programs of the similar topics will come up. So this is a very important function with the application of the AI. On one hand, so it can make our user comfortable because you don't need to search more based on your interests. So it will give you a good recommendations and make you quickly find what you want to watch. On the other hand, it can help the company to maintain a good relationship between the user and the company. So this is another application of AI, so we may experience. And this one is the navigation apps. So here I put figures. So this figures from every day, and I use Google Maps. And now the Google Maps not just navigate me to the destination, but also it will remind me of something like, oh, maybe the police is around me or some other accident happens around me, so it will give me some safety reminder. So this is very good because these apps will try to give the different decisions based on the dynamic environment around you. The next one here is, so it's called the chatbot. So obviously the chatbot is a very important application of AI in our current era. And I use the chatbot to prepare the teaching and give me more insights about my research. And I know it's a virtual bot, it's a virtual robot, but it will give you a very good feeling, and you can feel you talk with an expert or a very good assistant. So the chatbot is what I use, and I think it's a very good application. It can solve me a lot of everyday life questions. Yeah, because for example, if I want to find a good answer, what is the best restaurant in the world? So previously, if we don't have a chatbot, so I may search this online in Google, and then Google may give me a lot of items on the web page. But now, so if I have a chatbot, so instead of using the Google search, so I will directly ask this question to the chatbot, to the ChatGPT, and then the ChatGPT, this chatbot will give me a very exact answer, and I believe it will give me a good range of restaurants, and then I can have a good decision where I need to go to eat something in the best restaurant. So now I think everyone knows, so what is AI? I think you may experience some things of AI use. But now, so let's say, what is behind AI? Why this AI product can meet our expectation, can do something to us? The very important thing behind the AI here is a function. And also someone may say, oh, this is AI model. Yeah. The AI model, so you can answer the AI model as a function. The function is a basic concept in math. It maps the input to the output. So here I give you an example. If I have an AI model, I have a function, and it will take my request as input, and then output the feedback automatically. Yeah. So this is the mechanism behind a lot of AI products. So you can think of, okay, I have this AI product, AI application, and why this AI application work? Because behind the AI application, it's just a math function there. But this math function is not a unique function. It's super complicated. So this is why we need to provide the sufficient computing power and data storage to enable this computation of the function. So now let me give you the more things about these AI mechanisms. Actually, there are two very important stages in AI. The one is the AI chain, and the other is AI inference. AI chain means, so how to find the best function to work for the purpose of some application. So the AI chain means, okay, so if I have the data set and I know some questions and answers, and then so I want my model, want my function to learn something from this data, and then it can work for some certain purpose. So this stage we call the AI chain. The other one is AI inference. So once our AI model is trained, and with our models learn something from the data, and then so we can deploy the AI model in our hardware, and then the AI model can do something for us. So this is the deployment of the AI, and this is what a lot of apps and products of the AI do. So for example, so if we have the series, right, and actually the series now is deployed in our phone, in our smartphone, right? And you can see the series is a training model. It's a training model, and now it's deployed in our smartphone and try to do something for us. So actually, when we use AI, so this process can be treated as the AI inference to try to do a good inference to us. So now I want to let you know the training and running the commercial AI models require the massive computing power and the data storage. So it's not an easy computing task. It's super complicated. So this is why here, so we need data centers. So if we want AI, what's better? So now let me give you a good introduction about the data center. The data center, so you can imagine the data center as a building. So actually, I want to say we have the small data centers in our commercial buildings nowadays. So when I was young, so when I was learning some things from schools, so each of my schools, so we have the server room. So the server rooms can be treated as a very, very small unit of data centers. But now, if we want to run the AI, if we want to train the AI and that AI do some inference, just use very small size of the data center is not enough. So this is why so we resort to the larger size of data centers. So this is why so nowadays the data centers we have to do here means a huge building and full of the servers. And in each server, so we will equip it with a large number of CPUs, GPUs. So you can call them the computing resources. And apart from the servers, they provide the computing resources, but also we need some key supporting systems, like power supply, data storage, networking, and cooling systems. So now let's take a look at this figure. And if you take a look at this figure, so you will see that this data center is connected with our utility grid. So nowadays, the utility grid will provide the power and energy to the data centers, because data centers they need electricity to support their use. And then so we will say, okay, so we have the electricity from the main grid. Also, so we need the electricity from the local. Why? Because a lot of important computing tasks are running in the servers. So why this? Oh. Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah.
Just as a notice, we will email out this entire PowerPoint afterward. So if you sign in with a readable email, you'll get the PowerPoint.
Yeah. So now we will say, okay, so we have the servers and the electricities. The most of the electricity come from the utility grid. And the second thing here I want to say, because there may be very critical computing tasks running servers from the power voltages. So this is why in the data center, so we have some backup generator, the energy storage systems, and the UPS. The UPS is called the uninterruptible power supplies. So that will work during the utility power outage. So it still can ensure the data center works well to run its computing tasks. And then if you take the right one, so you will see we have the cooling systems in the data center. The cooling system is still very, very important because so when we run the computing tasks in the servers, so it will release the heat. So we cannot accumulate the heat in the room. So this is why we have to use the cooling system to cool down the temperatures of the chips and other specialized processors in the servers. So we have these cooling systems. In the cooling systems, there are three very important components. The first one is called the CLRN. It's the computer room air handler. So these computer room air handlers can release the cool airs to the servers and bring the warm air from servers back. So this is the role of the computer room air handler. So once the CLRN, this handler gets the warm air, and then the warm air will be bumped to a chiller. The chiller will try to use a way to make this warm air into the cool water. And then this cool water will be used by the CLRN to generate the cool air. So the chiller here is important and try to generate the cool water, and the chiller will generate the hot water as well. And then this hot water will be bumped into the cooling tower, and in the cooling tower, some of the hot airs, so they will be released into the outdoor air. So then, so you will say, okay, if we want to cool down the servers, so we have to experience the different stages in the cooling systems. Start from the cooling air, and then we get the warm air, and then the bump into chiller becomes the cooling water and the hot water, and then the hot water will be sent to the cooling tower. The sum of them, they will become the airs, and these airs will be released into the outdoor air. So this is a process how the data centers get cooled down. So now you can imagine that this data center is a digital factory, and that produces the computing power, the AI need. So now, so let me introduce you the key resources the data center use. The first resource here is the electricity, because we have to enable the components in data center work. And a lot of components in data centers, they need electricity, not just the servers, but also like the cooling systems. So they do need electricity to achieve the cooling this function. And here, so I give some examples. So let's feel how much electricity would a data center consume. So the first example, so we have a 1 megawatt data center. So this is a small size data center, and you will see if we are operating at full capacities, and then you will see the 1 megawatt hour operation of data centers is equal to the electricity used by the 32 hours per day. Data centers require not only the electricity supply capacities, but also it needs the sufficient reserve capacities in the power grid to ensure the reliable operation. Because the data center load, they are super different from the conventional load. The conventional load, for example, like our daily life, so we watch the television, we use the washers, we use dishwashers, we use a lot of machines at home, and then so we can say these low power consumptions, they have the rules and they will not change too much. But for the AI computing load, so if we monitor the power consumptions of the servers, and then you will see the power consumption in the servers, so they will fluctuate a lot. And they will ramp up and ramp down in a very short time durations. So actually, this is not good. And we have to prepare the sufficient reserve capacities to handle these sudden load changes. So these could be very unique characteristics of the data center load. But I want to emphasize, if we have the adequate reserves to support these sudden load changes, and then it will not be an issue, and this reserve can be maintained with stability and reliability. The next thing here is, I think the electricity pricing is to key resource for data centers, because data centers, they need a good price to attract them to do the investment. But the pricing actually is super complicated. It involves a lot of parties. So here I put the figures. I want you to have some feelings. And normally the pricing will involve different parties. So we have the electricity wholesale market, utility company, the regular servers, and data centers. And also we may have a lot of other very special load in our areas. And then you will see we will involve the three different types of price: wholesale price, retail price, and contracted price. The wholesale price, so this price will be used for the utility company. The utility company, they need to purchase the electricity from the electricity wholesale market. And you can think of this process like once you purchase something from the market, right? So the supermarket, they will get a lot of product purchased in advance, and they will try to get a lot of product from the wholesale market. So this is similar. The utility company will get the electricity from the wholesale market and using the wholesale price. This wholesale price will change dynamically. And then, so if we have data centers, so actually the data centers, they will have a contracted price before they start operating. So it's not like the regular servers, because the regular servers, so they will get this electricity rate from the utility companies and the public regulation commissions. So that means, so as a resident, so some regular customers, we will follow the retail price to pay for our bill. And then, so you will say, okay, we have three different prices here, and we have to carefully design these price structures, because it will ensure the reliable power system operation, the stable electricity cost, and the various across different server groups. So this is why we have to carefully design these pricing structures so it can make every party satisfied. So the next result I want to mention here is the water. The water in data centers is primarily used for the cooling systems in some type of data centers. The water usage varies depending on the cooling technology and the climate. So that means if we build data centers in a hot area, so that may consume the more water than the data centers in the cool area. So you know, like the water usage is not just depending on the cooling technology, but also depends on the climate. And also, I want to emphasize here, the cooling system will consume the water for data centers, but also the electricity generation still need the water. So this is why, so if you take a look at some reports provided by some energy institutions, so they will take the water used for the electricity generations into the account of the water used in data centers. So here I put these figures. So these figures is projected global water use associated with the centers and the AI infrastructure. And we have the two different types of features here. So one is the resource, the other is the consumption. If you observe the resource data, so you will see the global water resource for data centers are projected to increase significantly by the 2030s. We expect there will be more data centers in 2030. So this is why. So we will have the increase of resource. And also, if you take a look at the consumption part, so you will see the total water consumption is expected to more than double between the 2023 and 2030. And if you take a look at more inside this data, you will see the electricity generation and cooling systems account for the largest share of the water use. So this is what I want to emphasize for our data centers. The most water consuming part from two sides. One is the cooling, and the other side is the electricity generation. But now with the new technology development, so some modern facilities use the air cooling or water efficient cooling systems, so it will largely save a lot of water use. So this is the water. Still a very key resources the data center need to use. So now we mentioned the data center need electricity, water, a good pricing structure, and the center need the sufficient reserve, and also the very important thing here is, I think here, so there are land, transmission infrastructure, and substations and transformers. So here I give examples. So if we want to support the data center use, so we have to upgrade our we want to have the 150 megawatt data centers, and then so it may need a transmission line capacity like 200 megawatt. So here I want to conclude the power infrastructure must be set to meet the facility's peak electrical demands, not its average energy use. So this is why most of the times we have to upgrade the energy infrastructure before we have the data center built. So the last thing I want to introduce in today's presentation here is about the potential community benefits. So here I listed the 5 benefits I thought the data centers can bring to us. The first thing here is economic investment and the local job creation. And so actually, so we want to have a data center built. And then, so we will attract a lot of economic investments, right? Because this is not a single building. There are a lot of things in this building, so this is why. So we have to find a good land, find a good infrastructure to support these buildings, and so this during this process we will attract a lot of economic investments. And also it will create the local jobs. And normally there are 2 different stages. In the first stages, during the construction stages, so we need the technicians, the construction workers, and the project managers to have the data center building constructed. And then during the operation stage, we still need the technicians, the managers, the workers, and the IT people to maintain the service of the data centers. So that means the data center will create some local jobs. The second benefit I think here is that it can help upgrade the infrastructures in our area, and including the power and the network systems. And the third benefit I think here is about the technology ecosystem growth and workforce development, because the data centers, they can provide the powerful computing resources. And actually a lot of investing areas, so they need these computing resources. For example, so if we want to have a good health industry development, and so we still need the data center scale, because it can provide the sufficient computing powers to support the doctors, to support a lot of scientists. So it will try to foster the technology in other areas, not just in Asia. The fourth benefit I think here is the data centers, they can be supplied by renewable energy. So this is why in more data centers, so we will have the renewable energies integrated to the data centers. And then this can help to develop a lower carbon communities. The last benefit I think here is if we can make our data centers more interactive or more flexible, and then these data centers can act as a virtual power plant. So we have some time periods of the grid stress, and if we can do some adjustment of the load in the data centers, and then it can support the local grid services such as the frequency regulation and reserves. That means the data centers can help maintain a reliable and stable grid operations if we can make the data center more flexible. So now let me conclude my today's presentation. The first thing here is, so I mentioned the AI applications rely on the large-scale computing infrastructure. And the second thing here, the data centers can provide this computing power behind the modern AI services. And the next thing here is the operation requires the careful planning of electricity, water, and infrastructure resources. The last point here is, at the same time, the data centers can bring the economic investment and the development opportunities to our local communities. Thank you. This is
Thank you, Dr. Wang. We're now taking questions. Do you want to stay at the podium or take a seat at the table?
okay.
Pause for a moment while our technical staff rearranges the recording. Please remember you're signing in twice at the back. There's refreshments back there. Anybody got a question?
I'm well into I work in this area in terms of regulation of utilities, and I'm interested in learning more about this. I wanted to ask about backup generation, which you had on your chart. What are those usually powered by? I know the picture you have is like a small generator.
Oh, yes.
It's just an example. But if a data center is going to be built, say, in the Little Rock area, is it going to be gas-fired, natural gas? Is that another resource that's going to be captured? Or could it be powered by solar and with batteries? And improve the efficiency of it that way. So what are your thoughts on that subject?
Okay, yeah. So I think this is a good question. Yeah, so from my understanding, so I think so we have the different choices of the backup generators. And normally, the backup generators, so they will use natural gas or like diesel fuels. Yeah. And this is common resource, the backup generators they will use and supporting the data centers. Yeah. And also I want to mention the backup generation size will not too huge because the most of the electricity they will still come from the utility grid, and normally we will say it's just a small size of backup generators in the data centers. And the next thing here is the backup generators not just supply the power during the power outages, but also it can be used to start up some machines. Because some machines, if they want to have a very smooth transfer from one stage to the other stage, so they need to have a good buffer. So this is why we will have the backup generator here, so they can provide this buffer and help the systems gradually connect with the main grid and gradually disconnect with the main grid. Yeah. So this is my understanding. Hope this can answer your question.
Thank you, Dr. Wang, for the presentation. Very informative. My name is Rick Wheeler, and I live downtown Little Rock. My question, I actually have a couple. One, what is the typical size of a data center? You mentioned a couple of 1 milliwatt or 150. And then the other question I want to ask you is, I want you to speak a little bit to data centers as power plants. I think that's something I've never heard of, but I didn't see anything about negative benefits to, or I guess benefits and negatives to the community. important that we have both sides. So the size and then maybe discussion on the negatives.
Negative. Okay, yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think, yeah, so you asked the good questions. Yeah,
So
so
for your first question, so I want to mention, so actually, the data centers can be set from the megawatt to the hundreds of megawatts. Maybe the largest size can be the gigawatt. And here I can tell you like the 150 megawatts. So this is what we call the hyperscale size data centers. The most of data centers they may just have like 5 to 10 megawatts like this size, but like 150 megawatts is like hyper size of the data centers. But we can make this data center size get larger, and so in some cases, so we may have the gigawatt level data centers, but not too many, but maybe like a few data centers with the gigawatt level this size. Yeah. So for your second question, yeah, you're right. So in my previous presentation, so I mentioned the good side of the data centers integration, and actually, so we still have some. I don't want to say the negative impact, but we will have some impact if we have some impact brought by data centers, but it's based on some conditions. So for example, so normally, so the data centers will consume the certain amount of the power and energy. So we have to provide the sufficient reserve and power generation capacities. But if our reserve or our generation is not enough, then it may stress the grid, because the grid need to use its future reserve to support the data centers, and then it may cause some transmission line congestion or other grid stress. So I want to say like now our model data centers, so we have now we have a good and very standard planning, and we will try to ensure, okay, if we want a data center here, so we need the sufficient generation, sufficient transmission capacity, sufficient reserve, and then so it can help reduce this impact as low as possible. Yeah, so this is what I mentioned. The planning is super important. It can try to mitigate this impact as low as possible. Yeah, hope this counts as a question.
Yes, great, thank you.
As a point of information, the Port of Little Rock Data Center will be 150 megawatts, which is why we asked for that example. There are others in recent news about energy projects that are substantially larger in what will be built elsewhere. That's why we're researching all this now and creating an archive of information for those concerned. You have questions?
I just wanted to expand on two other points. Let's see. First question would be, does your research on flexibility account for the fact that when a data center flexes, they often turn on the diesel backup, right? How are you going to mitigate the air pollution and noise that hits nearby homes during those times? And then the other question would be, of course, the environmental impact of the water use. Because what was the term? Evaporative cooling. Consuming millions of gallons of water daily. What would the center do when during times of drought? And is there a requirement for them to use a closed system?
Okay, yes, so thank you for
The
your question.
question is good.
And I think
impact. So actually, like what I mentioned, the data generators is not too large. And like, okay, so we have data generators here, not just used for power supply, but also it's used to support a good transition from one stage to the other stage. And the most of energies supplied to the data centers come from the utility grid, and also now in the modern data centers, they will have the local generations, for example, like solar power, like wind powers, this capacity to support the power supplies in data centers. So if we have the more renewables in the data centers, or like we use the electricity from the utility grids, normally it will not cause the environmental impact, because we will not use the diesel generator, this backup generator so often. So this is one of my opinions. So, and also if you do some investigation online, you will see that now a lot of data centers they install with the renewables, and it's kind of like actually the data center owner, they expect more renewables to support to power them, rather than the some coal-fuel generation. Yeah, so try to have a very green electricity used in data centers and mitigate the environmental impact from the set of the electricity generation. So for your second question here, so you mentioned the water impact, right? Yeah. So I want to say the water usage is a common concern in the data centers, but now with the advanced development of the cooling systems, so there are the more water efficient cooling systems can be used in the data centers, and also so we have the air cooling systems, so it will not use the water. So I just want to say, like, now, because a lot of people, a lot of researchers, they realize the water usage consumption is topic, and so in our data centers, we will try to utilize water efficient cooling systems and try to save more water. And also, from my understanding, I want to say, so actually we have some water reuse technologies. So normally, the data center will not always use the new water. So they will try to use some recycled water instead of the new water. And also, the data center will use another way to save the water. So after data center gets the wastewater, this wastewater can be used second times for other factories. Because for other factories, they may need the water to do something else. So they
Is that the purple line?
Yeah, purple. Yeah.
Subsequent adjacent enterprise.
Yes.
Using this resource.
Yes, yes. So I just want to say, like, okay, so maybe some factories built nearby the data centers, and then they can reuse this wastewater to help producing in their factories. So this is why here I want to mention, okay, the data center needs water, but we want the data center to save more water, so we can have the advanced and water efficient cooling systems, but also we can have a good, careful design of this water reuse, and it can help to save more water.
Point of information, just yesterday, The water utility replied to our question on that very subject. The good news from the chief executive, Lieutenant O'Hannon, is that Central Arkansas Water has ample supply for the expected demand from the two centers in Denise's district and further out. Furthermore, the customer will pay 100% of all the costs associated with providing them any water they buy. So that's not going to keep back on us. There's another question?
Yes, sir. You're talking about reusing the water, but most of that water is going into cooling towers. Now, I've been to your building over at EIT on the 5th floor. I know it's responsible one on the other side of Coleman Creek. I've seen pictures, and you can find them, of cars bobbing in parking lots at UALR. Now, if that water is going into the atmosphere, most people don't understand a tipping point. A tipping point is when you say, is it going to rain? Because that's a tipping point where the water in the atmosphere comes back to the earth as raindrops. And I just pointed out that UALR can have a flooding problem. There's a lot more water in the atmosphere. Now, if you look, NASA used to have images of lightning strikes. And if you look around Houston, especially downwind, many more lightning strikes from thunderstorms. And I've seen news reports about all these expensive homes in Houston and around Houston and people fleeing because of the flooding. We're putting a lot more energy into the atmosphere, and there's going to be a lot more water vapor, and it's going to come down as rain. I just pointed out to you that UALR has had a flooding problem in the past. Houston has a flooding problem, and now we're going to put in more cooling towers to put more water vapor into the air to cool off the data centers. Where's the tipping point, and when are we going to worry about flooding?
So I think
you propose a very good question. So can I please ask you to rephrase your question a little bit? Yeah.
If I may presume, he's worried about a cooling operation over a data center throwing a quantity of water up into the air, which then brings on thunderstorms and flooding that nobody's prepared for.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I think you had very good question, and also very interesting. But I think I cannot answer this question because this is not within my expertise. Because my research focus on power systems. But I know this is important because the sound air released into the outdoor area and from the centers, so it will have some effect to the air quality, and then it may cause some other phenomena. So I think you are true, but these questions, I think I cannot answer this. Yeah.
A couple of other questions. What about the efficiency of the servers? Are they improving and using less energy as new developments occur in your Are they getting less demanding of water and cooling? Straighten out, get air cooling.
So let me answer this question first. So in the modern data centers, and I want to say we will have the new chips, the new CPU, GPU process. Normally, they are the energy efficient. They are more energy efficient than before. And also, there is a very important indicator that the most of the centers will use to evaluate the energy efficiency in the data centers. And the expectation of the data centers here is obviously they want the most energy, most power consumed in the servers. So they will try to use some technology and have a good energy management and use very energy efficient processors and try to ensure the most of power and energy is consumed in the IT side. So I hope this answers your question. Yeah.
Yes. And on the water issue, is the quality of water important? Why could a data center not take water from the Arkansas River rather than just Arkansas water?
Oh, yeah. So I think this is a very specific question, and normally, yeah. So we will see we have a very good regulation, and also we have a very measured closed-loop systems to try to control this quality, try to control this water quality. Yeah. And also the data centers will closely collaborate with the water utility company, and they will monitor and they will try to ensure a good quality of the water. And yeah.
Do we have any more questions? We're going to try and keep them brief. We want to let Denise talk about community policies.
Dr. Wang, I may have not heard you correctly, but you said there will be an increase in consumption between 2023 and 2030. What is the reason for the increase?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. So the one thing for this increase here is because we have the increase of the AI use. Because now the AI is so popular, and almost all countries, I don't want to say almost all the developed countries, so they invest a lot of money in the industry of the AI. So this is why if I want to develop more in AI, I need more data centers. So that means that we have the more data centers in future. So that means the data center will consume the more water. So this is why you will see in the figure there is an increase in the water consumption and withdrawal. Yeah.
So we're building the data centers. You said basically build it and they will come. But right now we don't have an increase in Little Rock, as I understand the community. Who's Little Rock and Pulaski County, is that? You said this, it's the community benefit. What are you considering to be the community that we're talking about?
Okay, yeah. So I think, Kathy, so you answered this question a little bit here. So because from my knowledge, so I heard about actually we have the sufficient water resources, so supply to the future data centers here, and also so you know it will consume the water, but like we mentioned, so we have the technologies, and that can help to save more water, and also we will have good regulations, and the data center owner will closely collaborate with the local utility company, so they will try to have a good monitoring, good control, good regulations, and normally it will, from my understanding, it will now have the huge impact. Yeah. Do I answer your question?
I have no idea, actually.
Oh, okay.
If I may I suggest we're getting out of technical, what is it, and what makes it go, and what might be the cost of that, into the policies of the community. Let's go to Denise Ennett. Thank you, Denise.
Wang for going through the more technical intricacies of data centers. I am a lawmaker, so I'm by no means technical about, I don't know all the intricacies about data centers. So what I'm going to do briefly is talk about some of the laws that we have passed in recent sessions to support data centers. And also, I represent District 80, and as Kathy mentioned earlier, 2 proposed data centers will be coming in. We have one in the Port Authority. We also have one in Pulaski County near Wrightsville. And again, all these parks are still moving, so I can't really speak on their behalf. I can only just speak generally on different policies that we have here, and look to some other policies that are happening throughout the nation, and maybe coming together and figuring out what can we do to create some policies moving forward in 2027. All right, so today I am going to briefly walk through 3 pieces of legislation that we passed recently. Act 819 of 2023, Act 548, and Act 373 of 2025. These laws are designated to attract large technology infrastructure projects to Arkansas, including facilities that support cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and large-scale data storage. Together, they focus on 2 main themes. First, creating financial incentives for companies to build data centers here, and second, making sure that states have the power infrastructure needed to support these facilities. The main reason that these laws were introduced is competition. States across the country are competing to attract large tech infrastructure projects. Data centers require huge capital investments, often hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. Arkansas wanted to position itself as a competitive location compared to states like Texas, Virginia, Iowa, which already offers major incentives for these type of facilities. The idea is that attracting these projects bring construction activity, infrastructure development, and long-term economic growth. All right, so Act 819 of 2023. Let's see. This law created sales and use tax exemptions for several major costs associated with building and operating data centers. That includes things like computer equipment, construction costs, certain services used by facilities, and even electric consumption by the data center. The goal was to reduce the upfront cost of building these facilities so Arkansas can compete with other states that already offer similar tax incentives. Okay, Act 119, the benefits and concerns. There are a few key arguments supporters and critics make about this law. Supporters say data centers bring large capital investments into the state and create significant construction activity when facilities are built. They also help expand Arkansas technology infrastructure and can increase the local tax base over time. Critics point out that the tax incentives can be biggest changes was lowering the minimum investment requirement to qualify for the incentives, reducing it from $500 million to about $100 million. This law also created a new category called qualified large data centers, which allows companies operating multiple connected facilities to qualify for expanded incentives. Another notable provision is that the cryptocurrency mining facilities were specifically excluded from eligibility. The goal of 548 was to make Arkansas more competitive and encourage more technology investments. Supporters say that expanded incentives make it easier for companies to build or expand data centers in the state and encourage the development of large network infrastructure. However, critics argue that expanding the incentives mean the state may give up more potential tax revenue. There are also ongoing concerns about whether the economic returns matches the level of incentives being offered. And the most recent one is Act 373. Large data centers require enormous amounts of power, like Dr. Wang mentioned in his presentation, sometimes as much as a small city. Act 373 allows electric utilities to build new power generations, facility, and grid infrastructure in advance to support large energy users like data centers. It also allows utilities to recover the cost of these infrastructure investments through improved financial mechanisms. To put the scale into perspective, a modern AI or cloud computing data center may require anywhere between 100 and 500 megawatts of electricity, and I think you mentioned that earlier. The level of demand can require new power plants, transmission lines, and grid upgrades. Supporters say the investment help modernize state energy infrastructure and support economic growth. But critics raise concerns that large infrastructure costs could eventually affect electric rates or create financial risk if projects don't move forward. The broader debate around these laws generally centers on economic development versus public cost. Supporters argue the incentives can attract billions of dollars in private investments and strengthen Arkansas's role in the digital economy. Critics question whether the tax incentives and infrastructure costs are justified given the relatively small number of large-term job data center justified given the relatively small number of long-term jobs data centers typically create. So the discussion often focuses on whether the long-term economic benefits outweigh the short-term public costs. So when we talk about data centers, my job as a state representative is to listen to the concerns of the constituents in District 80, and they have spoken, and a lot of them are not happy. The problem that I'm running up against is both of those have NDAs, so they not want to really disclose what's going on. So moving towards the future, I think having some type of transparency laws on the books would help with future data centers. Also, I'd like to mention that I am in contact with Avios, the one that is building the data center near Wrightsville. They will be coming March 31st, and she wants to set up a meeting with me and her team. So more to come on that. And so I'm relying meeting focus group, working group. So if y'all are interested in that, that'd be greatly appreciated. And my friend Kathy Wells would help me set that up. And I think that's a great way to get people to talk about their concerns, and so we can better mobilize when we talk to these centers, because they're not going to give us much, right?
They haven't, but we can share.
Yes.
We can collect, we can research, and we can share amongst ourselves and keep it going.
Yes.
So, the District 80 Arkansas Data Center Committee is in our future.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, so I don't want to belabor this, but I'm just going to talk about some other things or other policies that other states are working on. Let's see. When we talk about transparency, we have California proposed a policy requiring reporting of energy consumption related to AI-driven workloads and environmental impacts. So that's one state. We also have Illinois. They're proposing a Power Act which requires water use reporting, renewable energy requirements, and environmental assessments for new data centers. Iowa proposed legislation that would require quarterly water usage reportage from data centers. The great state of Washington proposed bill requires utilities and data centers operators to disclose environmental and electricity impacts. And also Wisconsin proposed legislation that would increase transparency around energy consumption, water use, and environmental impacts. So the main takeaways is that these companies have not been transparent, right? So I think if we form a group, we can tackle that and have some good cogent questions and concerns to have when they come to our communities. We all are worried about our utility usage. Time will tell what that looks like, but I think if we coalesce together and ask these questions, we can probably get some answers. I can't promise what the answers will be, but I think if we stand together as a community, we can try to get some answers. And again, as far as legislation in 2027, we're about to enter our fiscal session, which is next month. It's typically 30 days. So that would not be a time to present anything of this nature. But we have until 2027 to sit together and put our heads together and figure out different ways to, and see what the other states are doing, to see how we can introduce legislation to address data centers here in Arkansas. And with that, I'm finished with my brief overview. And do we have any questions? Yes.
I just want to point out in the handout, one impact is $13.17 a month increase now on everybody's electricity bill. And at January turnover in the schedule energy as approved from the PSC, which did not, I think, work for our welfare, that's my criticism, that number goes up because they're all on rising schedules. The three combined, and they are recovering from residential ratepayers money to build these data centers under a special statute. Question?
Thank you, Rep. Ennett, for the discussion and conversation today and your leadership. My question is, what, with your perspective in the legislature, what is the appetite from other legislators for any regulation around these centers? You mentioned other states. So what can Arkansas lead? Thank you.
For real? anybody in particular, but they're into, they don't like a lot of regulations. So, keep that in mind. So it will be an uphill battle to get something that looks like full transparency and safeguards. And again, I can't speak for my colleagues, but they're into deregulating things. So, but anything's possible. But I don't know.
Come prepared.
Yes, come prepared. So I don't know if I answered that question.
Yeah, I thought it'd be good for everyone to know, so.
Okay, it's kind of I guess I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't think a lot of us here, or a lot of the residents here, or a lot of residents, where we say data centers, we don't want transparency. We just don't want. I mean, the closest one we have is Memphis. All you hear about is that they came in without letting anybody know, they didn't even have the proper permits, and people can't even sleep at night because of the turbines and all that stuff. So, what's your stance on these data centers? Do you approve of these types of construction projects? And, I mean, what do you say to the people that, I mean, just don't want these around here, because at the end of the day, the only ones that like these data centers are stockholders. They don't live in these centers, so, yeah.
What's your name, sir?
Case, Mr. Case.
Okay. So, what neighborhood are you representing?
Right on Joker.
Okay. So, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like data centers in people communities. It's too much unknown out there about the impacts to the community. I'm gonna probably always be against them. So I don't know how to really answer that question. I guess when these things do come up, and Kathy is very good at sending out emails, when those bills come to committee, everything is out and open. You can always follow Arkansas Legislature. There's a calendar. If it's talking about taxes, it's going to go through tax revenue. If it's talking about states, it's probably going to go through state agencies. So my suggestion to you is to follow our calendar, and when those bills come up, and me and Kathy, we're in constant communication, she can rally up the troops, and we need y'all to come and speak and be vocal about these things when it happens. A lot of times when we get in committee, there's nobody there to, testify. So we do need people to come testify when things are impacting their neighborhoods and their communities.
My concern is about what kind of data is all these things for. We never hear specifics on that, but I think I know what it is. AI is about, it's not about providing jobs and economic benefits, it's about taking jobs from people. And data is about controlling us everywhere we look now. People have tracking devices that tell everything you do. They have Alexas in their home that tell what they do. They have flat screen TVs that tell you what to do. You can have refrigerators, you understand now, hot water heaters that are connected to the internet. And they use these small pieces of information. You wouldn't think the electric company being able to tell how much energy you use, hot water, but they can tell whether you're didn't use much this month, so let's get a little vacation, or you're using some more now, so maybe you've got visitors. All this information is being collected. We have block cameras all over town. Our city, some cities without all of them now. They installed one, we had block cameras in parks. One was taking a picture of a lady who's jogging. And some of them now have microphones on, so they can pick up quiet conversation from some distance away. There are all these different things. I believe that's what the data center is for. It's all about controlling us. It's the WEF, hold on a second. The WEF, the man who's now of those, and they're the ones that are behind the data centers.
I think that is beyond the scope of this discussion and this meeting this morning. I grant you have some concerns that are quite valid, but that's beyond what we can grapple with, and I think substantially affect. Next question.
I'm just trying to get a handle on the time frame for stuff. It's been announced that they're going to be constructing data centers in Little Rock and Riceville, but has there been a time frame for when they're actually starting construction? So, they could start it this year.
Yes, I mean, and I can get more clarity when I meet with them on the 31st.
And the legislative session began soon, and it, as I understand, the acts that have already passed that were very favorable to constructing the data centers. There would not be any legislation introduced in this legislative session that would be germane to those currently passed acts.
No, ma'am. That would be taken up in the general, the regular session, which is in 2027.
So we can have the data centers built by the time the 2027 legislative session comes into play, and they've already been built. So we'll be after the fact creating legislation, correct? So we'll be chasing the tail that's right in it all.
Well, my hopes is that if we don't get it right this time around, we help the future data centers that are going to come up in Arkansas. And with the NDAs, I don't really have a lot to say about the ins and outs, because they will quickly tell you we're under this and we really can't disclose this, that, or the other. So I'm sorry, I don't really have much more to say, but I will have more to say after the 31st of March. So.
Point of information, on the back of the agenda as a resource list, the very first item is a roundup of 2026 data center activity in the legislatures across the nation. More than 30 states are now handling legislation to withdraw last year's tax incentives or to install moratoriums of 1 to 3 years while they grapple with looking at cost connected, impacts connected to construction of a new data center. So there's been rather important change in the times amongst state legislatures across the country. So take a look at that, and it offers very interesting resources for us to chase.
Can I go back to Ms. Baker?
Ward 5.
Ward 5. Okay, so let me go and speak to somebody in UALR, which is our Bureau of Legislative Research, and see if that can be addressed in this. It'll be a short turnaround, so I can see if some of the tax stuff could be addressed in the fiscal session. So I will do that for you. But normally the real horny bills go through the regular session. So we're talking about budgets now. So, but I will see if something can be germane to this session.
Hello, I'm Philip Howell. I'm a journalist at the Arkansas Times here in Little Rock. I think you all heard my question to you is, so what you seem to have been saying a minute ago, Representative Ennett, is that you also feel that our economic development professionals are using the shield of NDA. They signed NDAs with assuming Google coming to the board, is what we see reported in RXZ, or the AIO, which is now announced as a big facility down in Wrightsville that has some very forthcoming details. They've also not really been able to give you any information. But I want to ask, do you know where they kind of are in tax abatement deal to cut their property taxes over the next 30 years. So I'm just curious if you have any information to provide the group on what you know about the deal making that's happening, or are you kind of locked out as well?
Again, I can't speak on any of that, and I will probably have more information on the 31st about the one that's going in Pulaski County next to Riceville.
And the other point I just wanted to make, since I have the microphone, is you know, the big player to watch in all this, and I already spoke to Kathy about this, is Entergy, right? They are the largest utility in Arkansas, and they supply energy, to over 700,000 customers. Ultimately, even the electric cooperatives here in the state, which cover places like Conway, actually have power sharing deals with Entergy. So Entergy is the base of power production here in Arkansas, and so I would just advise anyone concerned about this issue to just watch the deal making they're doing. All of that is public through the Arkansas Public Service Commission, and so you can go on that website, go on their website, read the documents, read the deals. They already have gotten a special rate contract approved with the West Memphis Data Center, and I imagine that in the near future, Entergy will be making announcements about how they intend to power Fort Little Rock Center, how they intend to power APAIO, and while also making sure that the rest of us can receive the power for our homes and businesses and communities and so forth. So thank you all.
And may I suggest for this meeting, maybe have those utility Bohannon and somebody from Energy.
Gene Block from Wastewater,
Yes.
pending replies about what they're gonna do with what they're done with.
Yes.
So we wanna deal with that, because we're ratepayers on that. And we can sure have somebody in from Energy. I've got a referral that I think we will be useful. We might do that next month. Try and keep up the momentum. I do point out that while technically our Public Service Commission, working in the public welfare, has public reports and filings, I just got the redacted door slammed in my face when I went looking yesterday. This is in regards to the Cypress Solar project that's just been approved. So there was a return Google, and it just went down the page. Redacted filing, redacted comment, redacted comment. So not only are the folks like running the port forced into an NDA, a good friend of many years regretfully said he could not say anything. But if you go to the Public Service Commission, in fact, I'm told one of the Public Service Commissioners, the high overlord deciders, said, you know, this is a whole lot more than redactions of the past. How are we supposed to do our work? The answer is, of course, shut up and rubber stamp it for the benefit of economic development. All fall down and worship economic development and do not question impacts. So that's our job. Could I ask a question?
While I'm all in favor of expensive things being put in our school district tax base so we can get more money for the school districts, of course, a lot of that money is now being bled out to private school tuition. And the last speaker just said 30-year exemptions on tax rates. How much is the legislature, and I'm sure you're not part of it, is giving away? And I want to point out that Southwest Energy built an electric plant down in southwest Arkansas. Now they gave enough electricity to co-ops to have them support it. But basically, we generate electricity in southwest Arkansas to export to Texas. And the ash stays here, and they changed the rules on our water that now they can pollute all the water, so it's not drinking water standards anymore. So now one of the easiest things to export is data. I mean, I was guarding a place Energy was replacing the grounding wires they have for the lightning strikes with new wires with fiber optic buried in it, because they've got the right of way, they've got the land, they got the transmission lines, and they were putting fiber optic cables so they could make plenty of money off transmitting data. It's easier to transmit it from one state to another. Maybe we're better off letting the other states build the data centers and give away their tax base, and we just get the data from the data center and they have all the problems. Now, Texas doesn't have enough water, and Iowa, it gets very cold. So maybe we're a better place, but maybe we don't want it.
Point of information, in the port facility, there has been a news account that they are going to render a payment in lieu of taxes. Long-standing policy where the economic developers give away property taxes for schools with one hand, but the smart corporate locator coming in gives a substantial gift back with the other. I've never understood that they were equal, but the first building in the port is going to result in I believe it's $200,000 a year gift to the local property millage recipients. So there is that going on.
And with that data center, you can also invite the Chamber of Commerce to come see, and they can give you some general information about that.
Well, that's a thought. I can do that. I have their number. Next question. Next question, over there. Okay.
Just one final question about the NDAs. As a legislator who worked on freedom of information, OIAs and public meeting laws, do you think really, what's your opinion on the city board of Little Rock signing, all these people signing these NDAs about this massive project that's going to affect us all? I mean, for me, when I hear that, like, we're us, the taxpayer, we have to record everything, file everything on time, and the request of the public officials is like, you have to have it out in public. You use public money, it's got to be public. And when I saw the video of the vote for this project about a year ago, there was no comment or anything, it was just unanimous. And then when I tried to talk to the directors about it, NDA, sorry, what's your opinion on that? What do you think of these people that we elect them in these positions? And when we tell them, hey, I'm concerned about this, sorry, NDA, well, we're going to affect my deal.
Go to meetings and demand.
Yeah, what's the point of coming to these meetings when you just say NDA? And would that be something that I guess the legislature would try to tackle or something? Because it just feels like these companies come in, NDA everything, get it out. And then at the end of the day, we're the ones, putting the bill, and if the law bursts, what happens to these buildings? And then, we try to talk to the planning, they say just have to be careful planning and everything, but we just had Amazon warehouse closed, 4,000 people out of a job, no story about anything, no city director saying anything, no mayor saying anything about it, but hey, 100 jobs maybe in this place, so, this is one of those things that we ask for transparency, but then they just use this tool to circumvent that, and then at the end of the day, we're just stuck with more questions and answers.
I feel your frustration, and it's difficult for me when I talk about this to other constituents, because when some of these projects go through the Department of Commerce, and they do their deals, and then they invite us to the ribbon cutting ceremony. So we're not, invited into these conversations with deal making. So again, I think working on transparency, some of these bills that other states are doing and seeing if that could be applied here in Arkansas to make these companies more transparent when they want to come here to Arkansas and maybe build these data centers. I think that's something we can work on, something tangible. But that's the standard, like, oh, it's an NDA. It ties my hand because I wasn't in the room when they were making the decision. So, again, like Rip said, come to these meetings, talk to these people, get involved. We can have like a little group and we can discuss what we can do moving forward. So I'm sorry if I didn't quite answer that question for you, but I'm frustrated as well. So.
Point, the last page of your handout is a guide to communities managing data centers. You will recall we've already checked several of those items. We're organizing. We're going to have a committee going forward. We're going to engage with the authorities you just mentioned, Denise. This is a useful tool out of an Amory Lovin's 30-page report, and you have the link on your resource list on the second page of the handout. This is a long-standing expert in the field of energy usage. He's a proponent of renewables. He's come to Arkansas in the past, so we know him favorably. And he's just come out with this. This is brand new. So I recommend you go through the resource list and get this for yourself. Any other questions?
Not one for Denise, but we should invite some of the city directors.
We're running for re-election in November.
In county.
And county.
Representative Ennett, Star Player, and I'm a resident downtown. With regard to the rate increase for energy for the residential rate payers, do I understand correctly that that rate increase will be used for power generating facilities to be built by energy with the construction costs funded in part, if you know, or wholly by that rate increase?
It's in part.
In part.
Remember, they got 3 of them in a month.
Okay.
One of them is recovered.
Okay, so let's just use a round number, $1 billion. Let's use a half, 500 million to build a power plant of some kind in Pulaski County. Do you have an understanding of whether or not Act 9 revenue bond financing will be a source of construction cost for that plant along with the rate increase?
I did see Act 9 on the notes that you gave me,
That's
but
my
I did
information
not.
from my research. Yes, there is.
I did not put it in my.
Well, somewhere I have it out in my mind that there's controversy in the southwest corner of the state, maybe in Ashland and River County, over the authority of the county judge to approve the issuance of Act 9 bonds in that county. So this is kind of a rhetorical question. If that should be true and the county judge has such an authority, does that mean that the county judge elected in this county in November, while he's not, has the authority to determine whether or not Pulaski County Act 9 bonds could or could not be issued for a project such as this?
What a good question. We'll have to research that one.
No, that's a good question. I have to get back.
been doing a lot of research on this topic, but I want to try to answer your question, sir. So as far as Pulaski County, an unincorporated area like Wrightsville could be impacted, or unincorporated areas of the county could be impacted by zoning laws. Zoning law changes, economic development law changes that the county does at the county level. Or Little Rock is a different story because that's all city, right? And so, you have our city board, our mayor's office, our economic development professionals like Brian Day, who leads the Port Authority, who are kind of in charge of that, and they all sign these NDAs, and they just throw out an NDA anytime anyone has any kind of question, right? So yeah, I mean, the county judge's race is going to be enormously important going forward. And actually, Judge Griffin was just here. He just had, I imagine, he had to duck out and leave. But the other point that I just wanted to make really quick, and then I'll shut up, and I'd love to talk with a lot of you after this meeting to just hear what you have to say. But the last point I'll make is, when it comes to these tax abatement agreements, so it's not just like they're cutting all property taxes for these centers. They're giving them 60% off for 30 years on property taxes. Now, why is that important? Well, we don't know how valuable these properties are going to be once they're actually constructed, right? Because they need to be appraised every year by the assessor's office, right? And so, this Port of Little Rock Center might not be built for another 3 to 4 years. So we are not, as the taxpayers of this county and of the city, are not really going to know how valuable it is. But I imagine if you're a company coming to Little Rock and thinking, I need this tax abatement agreement, but instead I'll give you $200,000 a year, well, you're probably thinking that's going to be a good deal for me to avoid paying the community as much as I might have to if I just paid property taxes at the full rate. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So I think that's a serious question that anyone concerned about these centers has to be asking is, okay, well, how much are they really going to be giving our community? And, as Happy mentioned earlier, are we just racing towards having these centers here out of just a commitment to economic development, but we're not asking serious questions about, well, these are giant trillion-dollar companies, right? Like Apple, Meta, Google. Can't they give the community a little bit more than 35% of the property taxes they would have paid otherwise, and $200,000 a year? So these are the questions we have to ask as organized community members.
One useful research tool for us is that there's been folks gone down the road ahead of us. As we all know the old phrase, then pioneers get the arrows in their backs. Turns out the state of Virginia has a lot of these for some years, and they're now legislating consequences and impacts. I've just begun to find what they're doing. I do recommend that you ask your legislative bureau, Denise, to inquire of the Virginia legislature, which I believe just concluded what all they did. And I know one, the governor vetoed because it was too transparent. That one I caught. So they're not succeeding as well as we might think. Thank you so very much for coming. We are going to adjourn. We're going to say once again, this was live streamed, and the recording will be posted on a link at our Facebook page at CLRN.AR. Thank you so much, Dr. Wang. Thank you so much, Representative Ennett. We will continue the discussion with the District 80 AR Data Center Committee. Make sure you're signed up on the email and you'll be kept informed. We stand adjourned.